The audience inside the studio was loud with excitement. The bright lights, the colorful set, and the famous faces created an atmosphere that felt alive. The Ellen Show was known for fun moments, jokes, and surprises. On that day, the guest list was special Keanu Reeves, beloved for his kindness and humility, and Will Smith, known for his charm and quick wit. It was supposed to be lighthearted, but something unexpected was about to happen. Keanu walked out first, wearing a simple black jacket and jeans. He waved at the crowd with a soft smile, looking just as humble as he always did. He didn't rush, didn't try to own the stage. He moved in his quiet way, as if he didn't care about being the center of attention. But in truth, that calm presence made people lean in closer, wanting to know more about him. Ellen greeted him warmly, but there was a playful sparkle in her eyes. She knew the mix of Keanu and Will might lead to interesting television. Then Will Smith entered. Full of energy, moving with his signature swagger, he hugged Ellen, shook hands with Keanu, but his smile had a hint of mischief. The audience clapped and cheered, sensing there might be some playful banter ahead. Will was a master at making people laugh, but sometimes his jokes went a little too far. As the segment began, Ellen asked them about their latest projects. Will answered with big gestures and quick jokes. Keanu spoke softly, taking time with his words, his voice calm and grounded. The contrast between them was striking. Then Will leaned forward with a grin and said something that made the crowd gasp. "Come on, man," Will chuckled. "You gotta loosen up. You're too quiet. It's like you're still in the Matrix trying to dodge fun." The audience laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that felt light. There was an awkward pause, and some people glanced at Keanu to see how he'd react. Keanu didn't flinch. He gave a small smile and said nothing at first, as if he was letting the words settle. Ellen tried to keep the mood easy, adding, "Well, Keanu's just zen. That's his style." But Will wasn't done. "Nah," Will continued, still smiling. "I'm just saying, man, you're like too polite. It's Hollywood. You gotta play the game. Show some sparkle. You can't just stand there being Mr. Nice Guy all the time." The room felt different now. Some people laughed, but others shifted in their seats. The joke was starting to sound more like a jab. Cameras caught Keanu's face, still calm, but his eyes sharper now. "Right," as if something inside had been stirred. Ellen glanced at him, curious how he would respond. Keanu took a slow breath, leaned forward, spoke in a voice so gentle it made the whole room quiet. "You know, Will," he said softly, "I think there's more than one way to shine. Some people do it loud, some do it quiet. But if your light is real, it reaches people either way." The audience went silent, the kind of silence that comes when words cut deeper than expected. Then applause began, soft at first, then louder until it filled the room. Even Ellen's eyes widened slightly. Realizing they had just witnessed something more powerful than a joke, Will chuckled awkwardly, nodding, but his face showed he hadn't expected that answer. It wasn't aggressive, but it was unshakable. It was the kind of comeback that didn't humiliate. It taught. Ellen smiled, leaning into the moment. "Well, I think we just got a little wisdom for the day," she said, and the audience agreed. But while the show went on, a new undercurrent was in the air. Viewers at home didn't know it yet, but this small exchange would set off a much bigger story, one that went beyond television, touching lives in ways no one could have predicted. And that was only the beginning. After the segment ended, the show cut to a commercial break. The audience buzzed with whispers, some replaying Keanu's words in their minds. Backstage, the energy was different. Crew members moved quickly, preparing for the next part of the show, but a few exchanged knowing glances. They had seen something unusual happen on stage. Keanu stayed seated quietly, sipping from a small bottle of water. Will paced a little, his usual big smile dimmed, as if he was turning Keanu's words over in his mind. Ellen approached Keanu with a grin and said softly, "That was smooth. Very smooth." Keanu simply shrugged and replied, "I didn't mean it to be smooth. I just believe it." When the cameras were back on, the show carried on with games and lighthearted questions, but something about the earlier moment had shifted the mood. When it was over, Will made a point to shake Keanu's hand firmly before they left the stage. "You got away with words, man," he said. It sounded genuine, but there was also a hint of something unspoken. Perhaps a challenge. Perhaps. Respect. A few hours later, clips from the show began appearing online. Social media lit up. Short videos of Keanu's calm, thoughtful comeback spread fast, with captions like "Keanu schools Will Smith with pure wisdom," and "the classiest clapback in talk show history." Fans praised how he handled the situation without anger or arrogance. Some even wrote long posts about how those few words had inspired them to think about how they show up in life, but not everyone saw it the same way. A few entertainment blogs twisted the moment, painting it as tension between the two actors. Headlines like "Keanu versus Will, Hollywood feud brewing" began to pop up. Suddenly, what was just a small exchange was becoming a story. People argued about Keanu, as always, avoided reading most of it. He had learned long ago that the public would take any moment and shape it into their own version of the truth. But that night, as he sat in his apartment with a cup of tea, he replayed the moment in his head. It wasn't Will's teasing that stuck with him. It was the thought of how easily kindness can be mistaken for weakness in the eyes of the world. The next day, Keanu had a meeting at a charity he supported, one that helped children who had lost parents in accidents. He greeted everyone warmly, spoke with the kids, and listened to their stories. One young boy, no older than 12, shyly told him, "I saw you on TV yesterday. People were laughing, but you stayed kind. I liked that." Those words stayed with Keanu. He realized that what happened on Elon's show wasn't just a talk show moment. It was a reminder of why he lived the way he did. His quiet strength wasn't just for himself. It was a message for anyone who felt overlooked or underestimated. Meanwhile, Will Smith had been thinking too. Later that week, he reached out through a mutual friend, inviting Keanu to lunch. It surprised Keanu, but he agreed. They met at a small restaurant away from the paparazzi. Sitting in a quiet corner, Will leaned in and said, I wasn't trying to be mean. I grew up thinking you had to be loud to be seen, but you flipped that on me." Keanu smiled and replied, "We all have our ways. Neither is wrong. It's just about knowing who you are and living it." That lunch would be the start of something unexpected. A friendship that would soon be tested in ways neither of them could have imagined. And the test wouldn't come from Hollywood. It would come from a place far more personal, where fame and cameras couldn't help them. The weeks after their lunch were quiet on the surface, but both men carried that conversation with them. Keanu returned to his filming schedule, working long days on set. Will went back to his own projects, balancing work and family life. In the background, their unlikely connection grew. Every so often, Will would send Keanu a text, sometimes a joke, sometimes a quote, sometimes just a simple "hope you're doing good." Keanu always replied, short but sincere. One rainy afternoon in Los Angeles, Keanu received a call from Will. His voice was different this time. No jokes, no high energy. Hey man, I know this is out of nowhere, but I need a favor," Will said quietly. Keanu didn't hesitate. "What's going on?" "It's not for me," Will continued. "For someone I care about. My nephew Jordan. He's been going through a hard time. His dad left, his mom works 2 jobs. He's getting into trouble. Skipping school, hanging with the wrong crowd. I've tried talking to him, but he just shuts me out, I think. Maybe he needs someone who's not family to get through to him. Someone he respects but doesn't feel judged by." Keanu listened carefully. He wasn't used to being asked for this kind of help, but something in Will's voice told him it was serious. "All right," Keanu said simply. "When can I meet him?" 2 days later, they arranged to meet at a small community center where Jordan sometimes played basketball. Will was there first, leaning against the wall with a worried look. When Jordan finally showed up, his hoodie pulled low, his steps slow. He didn't look happy to see either of them. "This him?" Jordan asked, glancing at Keanu. Double quotes. "Yeah." Will replied, "This is Keanu. He's a friend." Keanu extended his hand, but Jordan didn't take it. Instead, he muttered, "I don't watch your movies." Keanu smiled softly, unfazed. "That's all right. I'm not here for that." They spent the first 20 minutes in near silence. Jordan shot baskets while Keanu sat on the bleachers, watching quietly. Will tried to fill the gaps with light conversation, but Keanu shook his head slightly, signaling him to give space. Eventually, Keanu stood up, walked over, and picked up the ball after it bounced his way. "Mind if I take a shot?" he asked Jordan. Shrugged. Keanu missed the first shot badly, which made Jordan smirk. "You're terrible," the boy said. "Yep," Keanu replied, retrieving the ball. "But I'm not afraid to miss." He shot again, this time making it. Thing about life. Sometimes you miss a lot before you get it right, but you gotta keep shooting. Jordan paused, holding the ball now, his eyes narrowing just a little. It wasn't a breakthrough, but it was the first time he really looked at Keanu. Over the next week, Keanu showed up at the court every evening. Sometimes they barely spoke. Sometimes they played one-on-one. Slowly, Jordan started to talk about school, about his mom, about how he felt invisible. Keanu never lectured, never told him what to do, just listened and shared small pieces of his own story. One night after Jordan left, Will walked up to Keanu with a grateful look. "Man, I don't know how you're doing it, but he's changing. He's lighter." Keanu shook his head. "It's not me, it's him. He just needed someone to believe he could be more than his mistakes." But neither of them knew that Jordan was about to face a choice that could undo all of his progress. And when that moment came, it would drag both Keanu and Will into a situation far more dangerous than they expected. It was a Friday evening when the call came. Keanu had just wrapped up a long day on set and was settling into his quiet apartment when his phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Will's name. His voice was tense, almost breathless. "Keanu. It's Jordan. He's in trouble. Real trouble." Keanu's calm tone came through. "Where is he?" "A friend of his called me. They were hanging out behind some warehouse near downtown. Some older guys showed up. Not good guys. One of them's got a record. They were pushing him to prove himself by doing something stupid. His friend ran, but Jordan stayed. I think he's scared, but also doesn't want to back down." Keanu didn't ask more questions. "Send me the address," he said, already grabbing his jacket and keys. 25 minutes later, Keanu pulled up to the warehouse district. The streets were dimly lit, the air heavy with the smell of oil and rain. He spotted Will pacing near. The corner, worry written all over his face. "I tried calling him, texting him." "Nothing," Will said. Keanu looked toward the faint sound of voices echoing from the alley. "Stay here," he said firmly. "If this goes bad, I don't want them thinking there's more than one of us coming." Will hesitated but nodded. Keanu walked slowly down the alley, his footsteps quiet but steady. Up ahead, he saw Jordan, his hoodie up, shoulders tense, standing with 3 older guys. One was holding a spray can, pointing toward the wall. "Come on, kid. Show us you're not just talk," the man said, his voice low and threatening. Jordan's hand shook slightly. I don't want to do this," he muttered. The leader smirked. "Too late. We're here now. You want to walk away? You'll regret it." Keanu stepped into the light. "He's not doing it," he said calmly. The 3 men turned, sizing him up. The leader laughed. "And who are you supposed to be?" "Just someone who's taking him home," Keanu replied. Tone was quiet but carried a weight that made them pause. The leader took a step forward. "You think you can walk in here?" And Keanu didn't move. "Yes." "Because you know this isn't worth it. You're asking a kid to throw away his future so you can feel powerful for 5 minutes. That's not strength. That's weakness." For a moment, no one spoke. The man's smirk faltered, but his pride kept him from backing down. "You got a big mouth for someone standing alone," he said. Keanu's voice stayed even. "I'm not alone." Jordan looked up confused. "Ah!" Then he noticed a shadow at the far end of the alley. Will had followed quietly after all, his phone in hand, already dialing the police. The leader glanced between them, his eyes narrowing. After a tense pause, he scoffed and tossed the spray can aside. "Whatever. Not worth it." He signaled to his friends, and they melted back into the darkness. Keanu walked to Jordan, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. "Let's go." The walk back to the car was silent. Jordan sat in the back seat, staring at the floor. When they reached the community center parking lot, Will turned to him. "You scared me tonight, kid, but you got a second chance now. Don't waste it." Jordan's voice was quiet, but firm. "I won't." Keanu didn't say anything, but the relief in his eyes said enough. Still, deep down, he knew this was only a temporary victory. Sometimes the hardest battles weren't the ones fought in dark alleys. They were the ones that came later. Yes. When the world tried to pull you back into old habits, what none of them knew was that someone had taken a video of the confrontation. It was about to go viral in a way none of them expected. 2 days later, Keanu woke up to his phone buzzing nonstop. Texts, missed calls, and a flood of notifications. When he finally checked, his heart sank. The video from the alley was everywhere. The clip, shaky but clear enough, showed Keanu stepping into the light, facing down the 3 men, and walking Jordan away. It had been posted on a small neighborhood page first, but within hours it spread across Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Headlines read things like, "KeanuReeves saves teen from gang pressure," and "real-life John Wick moment," but with kindness. The comments poured in. People praised his calm bravery, his quiet authority. Others dissected every word he said in the video. "That's not strength, that's weakness," became a trending quote. But the attention wasn't all good. Some entertainment sites twisted the story, speculating about who the men were, why Keanu was in that area, and whether the whole thing had been staged. Few of the gang members recognized themselves in the footage, and they weren't happy. Meanwhile, Jordan found himself in an uncomfortable spotlight. Classmates who used to ignore him now whispered about him in the hallways. Some treated him like a hero, others mocked him for needing KeanuReeves to rescue him. The attention made him restless, and Will noticed the boy withdrawing again. That week, Will invited Keanu to his house for dinner. Jordan was there too, quiet and distracted. After the meal, Will pulled Keanu aside. "I'm worried about him again," Will admitted. The video made him feel like he's not in control of his own story. He hates that everyone's talking about it. Keanu thought for a moment. Then we give him his own story, one he can shape himself. The next day, Keanu took Jordan to the community center. Instead of playing basketball, they sat in one of the small meeting rooms. "You can't control what people say," Keanu told him, "but you can control what you do next. You can let this moment define you as the kid who got rescued, or you can make it the moment that changed you." Jordan frowned. "And how do I do that?" "By helping someone else," Keanu said simply. Over the next few weeks, Jordan began volunteering at the community center, helping younger kids with homework, teaching them basketball drills, and talking to them about peer pressure. It wasn't easy. Some days he wanted to quit, but slowly he began to see himself differently. One Saturday, a group of parents approached Keanu and Will during a community event. "Thank you," one mother said. "My son talks about Jordan like he's his hero now." Will smiled, but he also knew there was still one more thing to address. The fact that the men from the alley hadn't completely disappeared. There were whispers they were still around, and that they hadn't forgotten the humiliation. Then one night, Will called Keanu again. "We've got a problem," he said. "Those guys, they've been hanging around near Jordan's school. I don't like this." Keanu's voice was calm but firm. "Then we need to end this for good." Asterisk, the morning of the confrontation started quietly. Sky was overcast, the streets damp from an early drizzle. Keanu drove to Will's place. His mind steady, his breathing calm. Will met him at the door, tense but ready. Jordan was inside, sitting at the kitchen table with his backpack, trying to pretend he wasn't nervous. "We'll be there when school ends," Keanu told him. "Just go through your day like normal." But they all knew it wasn't going to be a normal day. That afternoon, Keanu and Will parked across the street from the school. Students began pouring out, laughing, talking, heading toward buses or waiting cars. Then, just as Will had said, the 3 men from the alley appeared near the corner. Their posture was casual, but their eyes were locked on Jordan as he stepped. Out of the gate, Keanu moved first, crossing the street with long, steady steps. Will followed close behind. "Look who it is," The leader sneered when he saw Keanu. Come to save the kid again. Keanu stopped a few feet away, his voice calm but sharp. I'm here to tell you, this ends now. The man chuckled. Hey. What? Keanu didn't raise his voice. Or you're going to spend the rest of your life chasing kids around for scraps of power. And deep down, you'll know that's all you ever were. You don't scare him anymore. You don't scare me. You just look lost. The leader's smirk faltered, the words hitting harder than any threat. Behind him, one of his friends shifted, uncomfortably muttering, Man, let's just go. Keanu stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. Walk away. And if you want to do something worth respect, come by the community center. There's real work there. There was a long pause. Finally, the leader muttered something under his breath and turned away. His crew following him down the street, Jordan stood frozen, watching them go. We'll put a hand on his shoulder. It's over, he said. But Keanu shook his head softly. It's never over. The world will always try to pull you off your path. You just have to keep choosing the right one. Weeks passed, and the men never came back. Jordan kept volunteering at the community center, slowly becoming a mentor to younger kids. The viral video faded from the headlines, replaced by other stories. But the people who had been touched by that moment, and by what followed, didn't forget. One evening, after a community event, Jordan handed Keanu a folded piece of paper. It's for you, he said. Keanu opened it and read the simple words, Thank you for not giving up on me when I wanted to give up on myself. Keanu smiled, slipping the note into his pocket. You did the hard part, he replied, as they left. The center together, the sun dipped low, casting a golden light over the street. It wasn't the kind of ending you saw in movies. No cheering crowds, no grand speeches. Just quiet steps forward, one choice at a time, toward something better. And for Keanu, Will, and Jordan, that was enough.